We are lucky enough to be joined by Anne Tremblay, who's a consulting director here at Bonterra, working in our strategic philanthropy branch. Tons of experience, and I'll let you speak to that. But thank you so much for joining us today for today's presentation.
Awesome. Thanks, Amanda. Hi, everyone. So nice to be here. Like Amanda said, I am our consulting director for the strategic philanthropy business line at Bonterra. And in that capacity, I work directly with our customers to help them run remarkable programs on our software. Prior to being with Bonterra, I was with Duncan for about 7 years, running communications for the corporate foundation and on the sustainability side as well. And then prior to that, I was with Cone Communications doing consulting for Fortune 500 companies looking to set CSR goals and improve their CSR programs. So let's dive in. So on today's webinar, we're going to talk about a couple of Giving Tuesday success stories. We'll talk about Bonterra's Giving Tuesday execution and then a few of our customers who really did an exceptional job this year. And then we'll dive into how we can sustain the momentum that we see on Giving Tuesday all year round. So beyond, philanthropy's biggest day of the year, what can we do to kind of sustain momentum and engagement with employees the rest of the year? And then hopefully the idea for this is to give you some tips and tools as you think about your 2025 planning. So Bonterra Strategic Philanthropy and Giving Tuesday. We had a really excellent Giving Tuesday this year. We had 154 corporate customers participating and raising money on our platform. We raised almost $36.5 million for 24,800 nonprofits, and that was from almost, more than 74,000 donations from employees around the company and around the world. And the top causes that people supported, and they are categorized this way in our software: human services, health, and animals in the environment. And I wanted to give a little snapshot of some of our customers' Giving Tuesday activations because they really speak to some of the elements we're going to cover today. So the first customer I want to talk about is one of our large financial customers. They have offices all over the US, some all over the world. And they were our biggest fundraiser and most successful fundraiser in the sense of dollars raised and employees who participated. So we asked them, what made this day so successful for you? So the first thing they said is, we do an exclusive 2-to-1 match on Giving Tuesday, and our employees really look forward to it all year. So they know that this is a time where they're going to get a bigger match. And then they also launch employee challenges and competitions, which can be a really effective way to kind of get your employees excited and get them excited to compete with others in fundraising. So they do both state and regional challenges, and then they also do competitions between lines of business. And then we also wanted to feature one of our media and tech customers who also was really led an excellent Giving Tuesday. And they talked to us about how they really lead a Giving Tuesday week leading up to Giving Tuesday to make sure that they have people engaged who are aware of what's happening and how they can participate. They want to keep it top of mind for employees. So they do kind of a traditional approach to communications with, posts on their intranet, social media posts, but they also feature their employees giving their why for how they donate, or why they donate on Giving Tuesday and who they give to. And I love this approach because it's just putting a personal touch on, this effort and helping employees see what their peers are doing. They also feature different nonprofit partners. So folks that they partner with throughout the year who are in different regions, focused on different populations and causes, they feature them on in all of their communications. And they also offer that 2-to-1 match, which they said they consider their employees' biggest motivator for participation. So when we say engaging employees all year round beyond Giving Tuesday, what do we mean by that? I want to be clear that engaging your employees year round doesn't mean engaging them all the time, every month, making sure you have a set, 12 activities throughout the year. That's really not what we're looking for. In fact, if you're communicating too many things at once, people tend to deprioritize them. So what do we mean by that? We mean engaging employees in really meaningful ways throughout the year. And that looks different from one company to the next, obviously. But the takeaway here that I want to focus on is that Giving Tuesday tends to be successful because it's that specific moment in time that employees know is coming, know to rally around, and that there can be oftentimes like company-wide efforts and communications around. So thinking through to 2025, what other opportunities can we create that have the same momentum, create the same momentum and have the same excitement around them? So today we're going to talk about a couple strategies that can help you engage your employees beyond Giving Tuesday. We'll go through each of these individually, but we want to remove barriers to participation, articulate your purpose clearly for employees, create your employee engagement calendar, make communications really central to your efforts, put the right programs and incentives in place, create storytelling opportunities, and then rally your troops. All right, so first let's talk about removing barriers to participation. So what we hear the most often from our, from our customers, employees, when they're having trouble getting folks to participate is people are worried that, participating is too hard. They don't know how to participate. They're not sure if they're allowed to participate. They don't have the time. They're not really given permission. If their manager doesn't care about what's going on, they might feel like they can't participate. And then, lastly, they're not interested in the programs that are being offered. And so I think one thing that's really key as we're looking at this list of barriers to participation is thinking through how can we mitigate these? And that means clear guidelines on your CSR program and how employees can be involved, communicating them really often, early and often, in as many places as you can, and making sure that you're cascading communications from the top down so that people know that this is important, not just to them, but also to their managers and leaders. The second thing I like to talk about here is the importance of articulating your purpose. So it's not enough to just say to your employees, we want to do good in the community, here's a volunteer opportunity. If you're able to really articulate your purpose for being and for your CSR programs being, you're going to be able to do something really powerful for your employees where they can really kind of attach to what you're doing. They understand it, it's easily digestible, and they can easily repeat it. So two examples here. Disclaimer that one is my former employer. The Duncan Joy and Childhood Foundation, they have a really simple mission statement, providing the simple joys of childhood to kids battling hunger or illness. And what I like about this is that, all Duncan employees know that when the company is doing something in the community, it is either in, helping combat childhood hunger or childhood illness. And then the second example here is Cox Enterprises. They have their 34 by 34 platform. And their goal is to help 34 million people live more prosperous lives by 2034. This is something that all of their employees know. They know 34 by 34, and it's simple enough to remember, simple enough to kind of attach on and rally behind. So something to think about as you're thinking about your messaging and your communications plan for next year. All right, the second thing is creating your calendar. So I have an example here that I'll go through, but this is going back to what I mentioned earlier about it's not about engaging your employees all the time, 12 times a year, every month of the year. It's really about creating a calendar that makes sense for you, that is balanced both with smaller initiatives and bigger, perhaps signature initiatives that employees can participate in. So here we have an example. It's made up. It's a large US-based food and beverage company whose CSR program is focused on food security. So I created a sample calendar for them. They have different touch points throughout the year that people can participate in that are smaller. That might look like team-based volunteer events that can be requested for sales conventions, regional meetings, exhibits, things like that, or expos. The second is the opportunity for employees to give back during natural disasters to help with food relief efforts. So disaster relief, but tied to food security. And the third here is they participate in Hunger Action Month every September, and they issue a fundraising goal for Feeding America, which is their partner, and with a 2-to-1 match. And then Their signature initiative is a dedicated month of caring where employees are volunteering in food banks and food pantries, and they also have a participation goal. So as you can see here, it's not always on. It's clear touch points throughout the year that give employees an opportunity to participate in the way that makes the most sense for them. So second, or next, I should say, is the importance of internal communications. And this is the hill that I will die on. This is what I think is the most important partner to an employee engagement program and to a CSR program is internal comms. And truly the best CSR employee engagement program will go nowhere if you don't have a strong internal communications plan um, to carry it through. And so I wanted to give a couple examples here of what we tend to think of as communications, which is, we're going to send employees an email. We'll post something on the internet so people can see it when they log on in the morning. We'll do a newsletter article, we'll do a Slack post, etc. That is good and should be part of your plan, but it's not enough. So communications also needs to be about issuing bold goals and calls to action. And what I mean by that is thinking through, instead of saying, our goal is to raise $50,000 for Feeding America, or our goal is to raise money for Feeding America. We want to say our goal is to raise $50,000 for Feeding America by this date. We hope that employees will participate. You get a 2-to-1 match up to this amount, really making it clear and then providing an update on progress to keep people motivated and excited and also remind them. The second is communications cascades. This is something that a lot of our customers do, and especially the large financial institution I was talking about at the beginning of the webinar. They do this really systematically, where they start with their leadership team and communications cascades down through different lines of business, managers, et cetera. And the goal is to really get down to the employee level where their managers are also communicating this and they're giving them explicit permission to participate in programs and encouraging them to. So making sure that your leadership team is part of your engagement and communications is really important because it really gives the whole company permission to talk about it, engage, and participate. And then thinking through, if you are a remote workforce or a physical in-office culture, workplace, different communications tactics are going to work and not work. If you are in office, physical signage could work. If you're in retail or have manufacturing employees, break room signage could be important. Desk drops could be important. So thinking through how to reach your employees where they are. And then the last point here we're going to talk about in a little bit, but is about activating ambassador networks. So really rallying your troops and rallying boots on the ground. So next, I want to talk about putting the right programs and incentives in place. So when you have, we have a lot of customers who come to us and say, like, how do I make sure that I'm utilizing my matching budget throughout the year, not just for Giving Tuesday, and really maximizing that budget. And so we talk through a couple of different strategies and programs that might be effective. And some of these are dollars for doers. So dollars for doers means rewarding people who are volunteering, employees who are volunteering with a grant that they can either give the nonprofit they were volunteering with or a nonprofit of their choice. They can give them a grant. So it's that extra incentive to volunteer, and it's that double impact of volunteering time plus dollars. Next here, charitable spending accounts. So we know that anywhere from $4 to $7 billion in matching funds goes untouched in the US every year. And charitable spending accounts are a great way to make sure that your employees are using their matching dollars. And what does that look like? It means literally creating creating a bank account for them. Very easy to do on your CyberGrant software. And basically saying to them, here are your matching dollars, go out, spend them. And what we've seen is most employees will actually tack on a donation of their own at that time. The next category here is double or triple matches. So like we saw in those Giving Tuesday examples of our customers, making the match bigger. So saying if you give, $10, we'll match that twice, or we'll match it. We won't just do a one-to-one $10 match. You'll get $20 and your nonprofit will get $30. That can be really powerful. It gives people a moment in time to kind of attach to, and an extra incentive to attach to as well. Next category is employee nominated grants. So giving employees the opportunity to nominate a nonprofit in their community, someone they think is doing really good work that is touching them, locally, and giving them an opportunity to nominate them for a corporate funded grant, and kind of putting the power in their hands as well as to how company funds get dispersed. And then lastly is offering flexible volunteering options. So if your workforce is in the office, 5 days a week, you might find that an in-person event where everybody is together works best. But in some cases, if you have a remote distributed workforce, or people who are, kind of working at a desk all day long from home, you might find that they want to participate through skills-based volunteering, virtual volunteering, or micro volunteering. So really kind of tailoring your program so that it is attention grabbing for employees. They see the incentive, the benefit of participating, and they are able to participate in a way that's meaningful to them is very important. All right, next I want to talk about creating storytelling opportunities. And this goes a little bit hand in hand with the communications piece we were talking about. But being able to go beyond your basic talking points of, we're donating X amount of dollars to have this impact, and really put a personal touch and a human face to the work you're doing is important. So how do you do that? The first would be working in partnership with your nonprofits that you're funding, that you're working with, that you're partnering with. They are able to provide you with personal impact stories, quotes, testimonials, pictures, etc. Along those same lines, focusing on outcomes in addition to outputs. So employees want to hear, we volunteered 1,000 hours this year, and we were able to package X number of meals, or paint X number of murals, or donate X number of books, and that's important. But you want to go the extra mile and talk about how it impacted the recipients of those those meals, those books, those murals, et cetera. And again, that's something that you can do in partnership with your nonprofit partners. Third here is inviting nonprofits to speak about their mission and work. So whether that's, an in-person event, or a webinar, anything, you can do to bring that mission closer to employees, where they're hearing directly from somebody who works at the nonprofit, or somebody who's benefiting from the work of the nonprofit. That can be really powerful. Next, an easy one here. Instead of just thinking about images, think about what compelling assets you can include in addition to that. So video, quotes, that personal testimonial, et cetera. And then lastly, profiling employees and celebrating their involvement. So this helps give permission to employees to participate. And it also really, I'm sorry if folks can hear a dog barking in the background. It's giving employees permission to participate in celebrating what their colleagues are doing. All right, and
We're pet friendly on our webinars.
have a dog walker arriving. And then I wanted to talk about rallying troops. So the importance of engaging ambassador networks and employee resource groups, because they can really be such an effective way to get participation amongst employees. And in case you don't have an ambassador network, or you're thinking about starting one, I wanted to give some tips on how to do that and how to manage them so that they can be effective. So the first one would be recruit broadly. So you want to have an ambassador network or an ambassador group that is, going to be able to get to employees at all different levels, in different regions, in different teams and departments. So think about, you want employees who are passionate, who are excited, who love their work, who love the work that the company is doing from a CSR perspective, but you also want to recruit strategically to make sure that you have the right mix of people. Next here is giving them the right tools to participate. So it's not enough to say, hey, go spread the word about the CSR initiative and try to recruit people to volunteer. You want to give them specific messaging and talking points, outreach templates, maybe a toolkit where they can have a lot of different resources that help them have a conversation with a colleague. And then along those same lines, providing really specific instructions for what they can do. So for example, that could be if you're recruiting for, your month of caring volunteer events, you could say, ambassadors, everybody should reach out to 5 colleagues in your department who've never participated. And that's a list that's easy to pull from software. Who's never participated, and try to engage them. Or you could say, try to get some time on your team's all hands meeting agenda and talk about this. So specific ideas and ways that they can get involved. And then lastly, you want to recognize and reward folks through not only communications, but through different company reward systems that you might have. We have really seen ambassador networks be super important and super critical to some of our customers' work, and think that there's a huge opportunity there. So just to recap, Giving Tuesday is a special moment in time, and we don't want to take away from that, but we do want to carry through some of that momentum and excitement to other events throughout the year, and that is possible. And what you want to think about is making it easy and clear on how people can participate, articulating your purpose so employees know why they're doing what they're doing, creating an employee engagement calendar that makes sense for you, for your company, for your culture, for the types of employees that you have, making communications central to your efforts, thinking about how to structure your program and potentially put incentives in place that make it exciting for employees to participate, storytelling around impact, and then rallying your troops, those employees who are extra passionate, who are going to be there to help kind of carry your mission through and recruit other employees to participate. And that is today's presentation. Thank you so much, everyone.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Anne. Really appreciate you sharing all of those tips. Really actionable and insightful for folks to kind of take away. And as we look into the new year, which I can't believe we're saying is somehow already here, can really work on their planning. So we'll take some questions. Before we do, folks, if you do have questions, please drop them in the Q&A section. We'll take a couple of moments. We'll pause here to let you think of them, if you haven't dropped them in already. And while we wait on that, if folks are curious about kind of tools that can help you better engage your employees in your CSR activities and are curious about how Bonterra's tools work to do that, I'm just going to put up a quick poll on the screen if you're thinking about that for the next year. I'll leave that up just for a quick moment. So feel free to let us know. And again, please drop your questions in the Q&A. We'll sit here for a minute while folks think. And if I didn't say thank you, and I think I did, but just I will double thank you for the insight on today's session. And it looks like we had one question come in so far. Folks thinking about next year, right? And thinking about planning. And they're wondering if you have a recommendation for when folks should start to plan for Giving Tuesday of next year.
Great question. I think this is one of those things where you want to have it in your 2025 plan as a kind of designated moment in time. I would say specific planning doesn't need to be happening immediately, but I would at least think about, who you want to benefit, like what nonprofits, if there's a specific set of nonprofits that you want to have your Giving Tuesday giving activities go to, or if you're going to be opening it up wide. So thinking through the structure of your fundraising on Giving Tuesday is something that can happen now. I think the more nitty-gritty planning can happen later. I love the idea of our customer who did Giving Tuesday week, where they really did a week leading up, kind of a takeover week, where it was in all their communications. They talked about it in meetings, and I think that kind of planning can happen, a couple months ahead of time, to have the engagement of your communications team, marketing team, people team, et cetera.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to think through now in terms of what you're going to do and who it's going to benefit, and potentially any programs and incentives, and then the communications piece can happen later in the year.
Yeah, awesome. That makes a lot of sense. Thanks for that. And um, to your point of communication doesn't have to happen every single month. It's not like people need to start talking about it right now. We can kind of wait until that later point in time.
Yes.
That makes a lot of sense. All
Yeah.
right, I
Especially
will.
something that people
Yeah,
think about through, it's something people think about during the holidays and as it's coming up. So it's really not something that needs to be that you need to start talking about now by any means.
yeah. Yeah,
Um,
and we often talk about like meeting people where they are, right, in their moment and what's most relevant and top of
yeah,
mind for them in that
yeah,
time.
absolutely. One thing that I didn't add is that, you know, my team works with our Bonterra customers to help define those programs and incentives, to help think through internal communications opportunities, to liaise with nonprofits to get those opportunities for storytelling. So if you're looking at this, what everything we just talked about and thinking like, how could my team do this? We're already so strapped. This is something that we can help you with. Absolutely. So feel free to get in touch if you feel like you need help thinking through kind of the strategy and the communications behind your employee engagement plan for next year.
Yeah. As you can tell, Anne is full of insight and the team is wonderful. So it's definitely a great resource to tap into. I don't see any other questions that have popped up. So I will let folks hop a little bit early here. Really appreciate everybody jumping in and joining. And again, thank you so much for all of the insight. And this should be the last webinar of the year for this audience for us. So I will wish everybody happy holidays, happy new year, and we look forward to seeing you in our future webinars in 2025. So I hope everyone has a great rest of their day, week, month, and year. Take care, folks.
Thanks, Al.